Senate will now come to order. Our first item of business is a land acknowledgement. ASG acknowledges with respect to the land we are on today as the traditional ancestral homelands of the Kumeyaay Nation. We recognize the indigenous peoples as original stewards of this land and all the relatives within it. As these words of acknowledgement are spoken and heard, the ties nations have to the traditional homelands are renewed and reaffirmed. Our next item of business is roll call. The clerk of the Senate will now take roll.
Jacob Aragon.
Here.
Ashika Arasu. Anissa Beckett.
Roxy.
Jolie Beagle. Chloe Cohen.
Here.
Devin Eder.
Here.
Dana Farhood.
Roxy.
Joshua Feingold. Cece Fletcher.
Here.
Angelica Galtman.
Here.
Lily Giovanelli.
Here.
Tequila Heyman. Chloe Holm. Osa Yoha.
Here.
Anna Jonomov. Arissa Leliviere.
Here.
Briera Long. Mia Dariegan Ilagan. Jonathan Martinez.
Here.
Malia McKinley.
Here.
Tatum Mosley.
Here.
Sean Pabla.
Here.
Morgan Pang.
Here.
Valeria Rivera.
Here.
Isabella Sevilla.
Here.
Alyssa Weaver.
Here.
Thank you to the clerk. Just a quick note, just so we move on. So you all have the mics on the table. Just one tap, the light should be on red for you to speak. I think some of them are just like a little bit quieter than others, but this time we can't really fix it. So just try your best to speak into whichever one is closest to you. Just a note for you all. And yeah. So with that, we're going to move on to the approval of the agenda for April 4th, 2023. Senator Jacob.
I move to amend the agenda by adding a new business topic of a presentation and discussion on a resolution to support queer and trans students and deny Matt Walsh and any possible campus speaker that engages in hate speech.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor has been seconded to amend the agenda to include a presentation and discussion on a possible resolution to limit speakers that engage in hate speech, presented by Senator Jacob and the IDEA Committee. And it has been seconded. Is there any further discussion at this time? If not, we will now move to a vote. All those in favor, please raise your placards. All those opposed? And any abstentions? Motion passes. The agenda will be amended to include a new line item after old business for the set time of 15 minutes. With that, is there any more motions on the agenda or amending the agenda further? The Student Life Committee Chair.
I move to approve the amended agenda for April 4th, 2023.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor. I've been seconded to approve the amended agenda for April 4th, 2023. Is there any further discussion? If not, we will now move to a vote. All those in favor, please raise your placards. All those opposed? And any abstentions? Motion passes. The agenda for April 4th, 2023 is approved. Our next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from March 30th, 2023. Senator Morgan.
I move to approve the minutes from March 30th, 2023.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor. I've been seconded to approve the minutes from March 30th, 2023. Is there any further discussion? If not, we will now move to a vote. All those in favor, please raise your placards. All those opposed? And any abstentions? Motion passes. The minutes from March 30th, 2023 are approved. Our next item on the agenda is raising of questions from members of the public. At this time, any member of the public may raise any immediate questions to the Assembly to be further addressed at final hearing of the business of the public at the end of the meeting. With no questions being raised at this time, we'll now move on to our next agenda item. Next on the agenda is report from the Speaker of the Senate. So happy Senate to you all. Thank you all for making it out. I know this is farther, but it's also a nicer room, so I'm hoping that compensates. Anyways, but thank you for your work that you've been all working on this past Friday. I met with Finance Chair and others to vote on the Center's discretionary fund allocations. Just had a couple requests and we went through them. It went a little bit over time, but I think it was fruitful discussion. I attended a late fest, thanks to TVB for having a great event, and it was a blast. Yesterday, I met with AVP Dr. Howlett to discuss the Students in Need Fund and its dwindling funds, and I will be advocating for different potentials for that fund in the future. If any of you have any questions about the Students in Need Fund, please see me, and we can discuss more about the usage and who it actually really affects. It was a very productive conversation. I felt that there's a lot of good things we can do with that fund. I also met with Jalitza Fonseca to discuss the Toronto pantry and closet, and it's also dwindling funds, and so I submitted to the ASG Finance Chair to consider a request of extending more funds towards the pantry, as they will have no more money after 2 weeks from now. So I will be working on that. I've also been working with the president of ASG to communicate to President Harris about his lack of attendance to ASG, and as well as working with exec to discuss several issues affecting campus in regards to public safety. I have also set up a meeting with VP Kai Snyder and Bill McGillis for next week, and those are going to be set up to be very productive. Hopefully we'll get some more clear ideas about the field usage. And last night I also worked with IDEA Committee Chair and Senator Jacob to finish up just some finishing touches on the resolution that they're working on and that they are presenting to you all to discuss, and then to be sent back to committee for final touch-ups and before final voting on it takes place in the future. And then again, I just want to wish you all a happy Easter break if you celebrate it, or just take the time to take and relax and power through so that we can get through the last month of the semester fruitfully. And again, any questions at all, please email me at ASG Speaker, and thank you. Next is reports from the Senate lead team.
Fill out your initiative sheet before the end of today, please. Thank you. / update it if you have new things going on / completed tasks. I'm excited to see what you're up to, and I'm proud of the progress.
With the Senate initiatives sheet, I emailed those who hadn't completed it fully. Thank you to those who did do it after I emailed you, but there are a few of you that haven't went back in and looked at because I emailed just a couple of you, so please go look at my email. It was from last Wednesday or Thursday, so please go do that, or Andres will be reaching out to you.
So really quickly, I just want to say thanks again for a great Senate last week, and echoing what the Speaker said, happy Easter break if you celebrate, and then parliamentary reminder for this week, basically saying if you want to have an individual count of everyone's specific vote, someone can make that motion by calling for a division of the House. Haven't had any instance of that, but I'm starting to learn into things that we haven't had, so these are just for you to keep idea of in case it comes up.
Thank you to the Senate lead team. Next is reports from the committee chairs and coordinators. We will move on to the IDEA Committee Chair, and if Alondra, could you read her slide, please?
You want me to read Anna's slide?
Yes, please. Anna.
Okay.
Anna's slide. She says, hello everyone, thank you to TPP for the concert. She also wants everyone to know that they're finalizing what work will be continued and what will be placed in the transition files. She also wants everyone to know that there is a presentation on a resolution today. The resolution is to support queer and trans students and deny Matt Walsh and any possible campus speakers that engage in hate speech. She also wants to remind everyone that the cookie for a comment event is on April 14th in front of the UCs from 1:30 to 2:30, and the catering will be from Ice Cookies. She would like everyone to have a lovely Easter break as well.
Thank you, and now we'll be reading the student org committee chair's slide as well.
Dana wants everyone to know that her committee will be meeting with the Vietnamese Student Association when we come back from Easter break. They will also be presenting more student words at Senate when we come back from break, and she also hopes that everyone has an amazing and safe Easter break and enjoys the heat and sunshine that is coming in.
Hi guys, I hope you're all doing well. The ASG Grocery Lift Code Initiative currently is sitting at 130 grants, which comes up to a cost of $1,674. I also wanted to shout out TPB for putting on an amazing Away Fest. I'm prepping for Finance Committee right now, just with the materials that the Finance Chair has provided, so that we can go through those meetings and make informed decisions. And I'm also trying to brainstorm about increasing student engagement and campus spirit. And then below that, I've added some of the ongoing Student Life Committee projects if you'd like to reach out and collaborate. And I have also been working on updating the Senate initiatives sheet so we can really work on some cross-committee collaboration. And then, as always, if you need to reach me, my email's at the bottom.
Hello, I'm Margaret. I'll be proxying for Anissa today. She couldn't be here because she has some lab meetings during dead hours, but she finalized the Senate appreciation game. So it'll be a baseball game on Tuesday, April 25th at 6 p.m. versus SCSU. And she's still working out the final details of the game, but put that in your calendars. And she'll be attending SAC tonight to get updated on the Narcan training. And she's also working with the student leadership team this month to create better training to be used in the leadership training summit next semester. And if you want to go into any home games, there's a softball game versus California Baptist at 5:30 on April 12th.
I'm going to be reading Senator Chloe Holmes' slides as well because she's unable to be here. She says hi everyone, and she's very proud of everyone for the last Senate meeting, and also wants to shout out TPB for the concert last week. She's going to be having a tabling event April 12th from 1 to 2 p.m. We can provide more details and reach out to Kaylee regarding marketing on that. And I also wanted to add that the FDA approved an over-the-counter Narcan nasal spray. So that's good news in terms of accessibility. And I think that's all.
Hi everyone, I don't have that much this week. I just met with my advisor on last Friday, had a good conversation. And then there's also the Oat Milk Initiative, which I think the Changemaker Hub came to campus and presented to you guys about. So you should know what it is, but basically oat milk at Aromas is free instead of being its usual 75 cents. So please take advantage of that. They're tracking that data to see if that should become a permanent thing on campus or should overall lower the price of oat milk. And then there's also a survey in the speaker notes about oat milk that I would ask everyone to try and get their constituents to fill out and fill it themselves if they could. And if you want to find out more, that QR code I think has more information on oat milk. Thank you guys.
Next on the agenda, we have reports from the ASG Executive Board.
Hello everyone, happy first week of April. Not a ton of updates from me since last Thursday. The food pantry survey will be open until Monday, April 17th at midnight. So again, just keep continuing to share that with your constituents that use the food pantry. Besides that, have a wonderful break and happy Easter and all who celebrate. I can go ahead and read Connor's updates. Academic grant review meetings start when we come back from Easter. Some of his meetings have been shared with Senate, so reach out to him if you'd like to be a part of any of them, and shout out to Senator Josh for this idea. Nominate a fellow student leader for an ASG award, and that link is right there, and happy birthday to Robert Downey Jr.
Hi everyone. For me, the judicial branch are looking to get our interpretations up onto the ASG website. I also met with the TPB chair last week to go over edits that the judicial branch made. We also had elections committee last week, and a reminder that ASG members cannot endorse candidates. Thank you. Sorry, for Toby. Thank you to those who came to our Women's History Month speaker event with Dr. May Jameson and Ole Music Fest. Currently not at Senate because he's helping TPB table for hiring next year, and you can find the applications on the TPB website as well as the ASG website and the link there. TPB will be planning a sustainability event on 4/18 during prayer hours, 2:15 p.m. to 12:15 p.m. to 2:15 p.m. And we will also be doing a late night breakfast / de-stress event on April 26th from 9 to 11, and have a great break.
Hi everyone, I'll be reading Ashley's slides today. So she's traveling all week, but she's still available remotely if you need to reach out to her. The controller is chairing ASGBC today in her absence. She also reviewed a president's discretionary fund request, updated the ASGBC funding guide, working on editing the ASGBC bylaws, and of course answering all of her emails. She had a great time at Ole Fest last Friday, so thank you and congrats on a job well done to Kobe and TPB. And then just to put on your radar, ASGBC has an over $10,000 request to be presented at Senate after break, and quarterly reports to be presented at Senate after break as well. Just remember to reach out to her if you have any questions. You can text her or email her. And then for my updates, happy Tuesday, everyone. These on-campus promotions are kind of the same as last week's, but voting days are April 12th and 13th. If you're campaigning, like Alana said, please make sure, if you're campaigning, please make sure to submit your campaign materials to me for approval. All of the guidelines are in the election bylaws for what needs to be on them. Just like 4 things. And then if you have any questions, you can also just talk to me. And then also as ASG members, you may not endorse any other candidates. So please remember that per my email yesterday. Appointed position applications are still open until the 16th for both ASG Exec and TPB. Research grants, cookie bear comment. These are all things that have kind of been up here. And then last night we filmed a late night style video with Andreas and Dana, which will be posted pretty soon. And then working on a Robert's Rules video with John later tonight as well. And then tonight, I know there's not everyone here, but we're gonna do a little photo op, or not tonight, excuse me, after Senate has adjourned. So that's awesome, and that's my little gift of the week, because that's what I will be doing over Easter break. Hope you all have a great break. And I will also be reading Maya's. So you should all have received an email regarding nominations for awards that will be given during our banquet. If you did not, can you please raise your hand so I can write down your name? But if not, awesome, she got you all. And then there are also, please have the form filled out and submitted by Friday, April 21st by midnight. There are also non-formal awards, so Parliamentarian John brought up how this would be a fun way to have a little recognition for everyone aside from the more formal awards. If we decide to do this, she does need help from 5 to 6 people. Can I get 5 to 6 people to volunteer right now, please? Amazing. Thank you. And then remember to do your office hour logs. Please, please, respond to the GCAL invite for our banquet ASAP. Quote of the day is, "Be like a flower, survive the rain, but use it to grow." Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to the ASG Executive Board. We will now be moving on to new business for today. Our first item of new business is confirmation vote on the ASU President's appointments to the USD Grade Grievance Committee. And then these are the people that the President has decided to appoint as Briere Long, Chair of the Academics Committee, and Joey Beagle, Culture, Marketing, Sciences Senator, to the Grade Grievance Committee. And so she is seeking for confirmation on these votes, or on these appointments. The Student Life Committee Chair.
I move to confirm the ASG President's appointments to the USD Grade Grievance Committee.
There's a motion on the floor, have been seconded to confirm the appointments made by the ASU President to the Grade Grievance Committee. Is there any further discussion? Senator, or the Sustainability Coordinator.
Hey, sorry, just curious, the Grade Grievance Committee, like, what is that under, and like, I guess they take academic grievances, what do they do, I guess?
The ASU President.
Okay, yeah, I can provide some information. This is also new for me, so bear with me just to kind of read the information for you all. So the process for grade grievances in the College of Arts and Sciences has student representatives who can serve on the committee. So they need representatives that are majors in the College of Arts and Sciences, and they have to be from different departments because the members of the committee may not be from the department of the instructor named in the grievance. And so all the student membership will be selected from the pool of student representatives that need to be appointed. And if you have any other questions, you can ask me. And Vice President Connor will also be serving on that committee.
So any further discussion on the motion at hand? If not, we will now move to a vote. All those in favor, please raise your placards. All those opposed? And any abstentions? Motion passes. The appointments made by the President are confirmed. Now we will be turning to old business. And our first item of old business shall be a discussion and vote on the Senate bylaw amendments presented by the Chief Justice Alana Del Torre. Take them off.
Hi everyone. So the main change, slash the only change that we made, was accepting this one edit where it's just adding directly from the Constitution, the Speaker of the Senate's duties and powers. So no like changing anything besides just literally copying and pasting from the Constitution.
So right now it's open for further questions, discussion, debate, as well as voting to approve it. Just a reminder for everyone, to approve any Senate amendments to the bylaws, they need to pass by 2/3 majority vote. So right now is the time to discuss, debate, or make motions as to approving or not. The Speaker Pro Tempore.
I move to approve the bylaw amendments presented by the Chief Justice. Second.
There's a motion on the floor and been seconded to approve the bylaw amendments presented by the Chief Justice. Is there any further discussion? Senator Chloe.
I just wanted to clarify, so when the speaker presented some potential edits at the last Senate where we discussed it, were any of those implemented?
No, those are not. The only one, because I got the vibe that no one wanted those edits. So the only one that I added that was from the speaker's suggestions was this one, just copy and pasting from the Constitution. Thank you. Yeah.
And then asking a question myself. So all the other amendments made, besides the ones that were suggested, those will be implemented when approved. These ones, right? Like the ones made by the judicial branch?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? If not, we will now move to a vote. All those in favor, please raise your placards. All those opposed? And any abstentions? Motion passes. The Senate bylaws are approved.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is a discussion and brainstorm of upcoming Senate speakers led by the Speaker Pro Tempore of the Senate, Lily Giovanelli.
Hi guys, okay, so we have some upcoming speakers that have been requested by you guys, and to best utilize our time and discussions with them, we've been requested to kind of provide them with questions ahead of time, like we did with Mike Dills, if you were here last semester and remember that. So let's just get started. Our first presenter is on April 13th. It's Charles Ramos and Carol Norman, Dining Services Director and Director of Hospitality Services. They will be presenting on multiple things, including food options, hours, and dining. Senator Takila and Senator Mia have taken ahead on this and have already met with him and asked him a multitude of questions that he will be bringing here to Senate. But is there anything specific that you would like to be in his presentation? Andreas, do I have permission to call people?
I'll also call on them, but.
Okay, cool.
The sustainability coordinator.
Okay, well, I'm not, I guess it wouldn't necessarily have to be in this presentation, but I know there have been a lot of people interested in kind of, especially on the pricing side of dining, and especially on like meal swipes and dining dollars, and maybe like being able to donate them if you don't use them, and kind of questions along those lines. So I think it's important that we include those in the questions. I guess we're gonna have a question document that we can all add stuff to beforehand. Is that the plan?
Yeah, so kind of utilize that time now, is I'll have these questions down on a document and I'll send them back to you for approval.
The sustainability coordinator.
And then I did say that wouldn't necessarily have to be in the presentation, but if they included stuff on, specifically on the pricing and the details on that, the more details the better. That would make it easier for us to kind of seek transparency and all that.
Yeah, so specifically I want to mention that Senate has been in communication with Andre Malley about pricing. So Charles Ramos would be focusing more on food swipes or meal swipes and things like that. So just keeping that in the repertoire. But show of hands, who would be interested? Although we've been in communication with him, I felt like relatively in the loop between Arissa and Andres' updates. But would anyone want Andre Malley to come to Senate? Okay, thank you. That's all.
I think I just want to also make it clear that the Speaker Pro Tempore is trying to collect questions at this time. So like things that you would all like to ask these people who are coming, and just making sure that then as the Senate lead team will be looking at the questions and kind of sending these out, especially when we have VP Katie Roy, who's in charge of, who's the Senior Vice President for Finance of the university, and I know a lot of you have questions about tuition money and funding for different programs and initiatives on campus. And so the same way, I just want to echo that right now is really the time to ask those questions and be like, if you have a question for these kind of people, that's what we're doing right now. And that's what we're engaging right now. Senator Valeria is next on the stack.
I wanted to ask you questions about, I know that I've previously mentioned before that swipes could be used when instead of dining dollars at times. And actually the other day I went to Bosley and they were like, oh, you want to use the swipe? And I was like, yeah. And that was at 4:30 p.m. So maybe we could ask if we could use swipes earlier than that, so then they can be utilized with like dining dollars. So I remember, I don't know what I bought, but it was like a swipe, I think, for a smoothie or something instead of using my dining dollars. And I was like, yeah. So maybe we could ask about that.
Yeah, that's definitely something that we would talk to Charles about. I don't know if you guys know the program, but basically after 4:30, when the dining hall is open for meal swipes, you can use a meal swipe equivalency at any other dining place on campus. I think it's like $10.70 equivalency. So yeah, I think talking about extending the time would be definitely an option, and also just I think advertising that better. I don't know about you guys, but I had no idea that was a thing until relatively recently.
Next on stack is Senator Devon.
I personally would love to see kind of what percentage of meal swipes go unused, and how, and not even a percentage, just a raw count of how many meal swipes are issued at the beginning of the semester and then how they actually get used throughout the course of the semester. And then also, if it's possible, if they could present the profit and loss income statement for auxiliary services, that would be pretty valuable to see as well.
Yeah, that'd definitely be great information that we could ask him to have.
Next on stack is Senator Tatum.
Hi, yeah, so I know SLP had a gluten-free options night a couple weeks ago, but I would like to see how he's kind of dealing with making food options more inclusive towards different sort of allergies and stuff like that, because I know from my friends' perspective, they can't find a lot of options for them, and my friends have even talked to certain higher ups and nothing's really changed about it, so I just kind of want to see how we can make it more inclusive to everyone on campus.
100%, yeah.
Next on stack is Senator Jacob.
Hello. So going off of Senator Valeria's point, I think we should ask about how they're communicating the fact that you can use meal swipes after a certain time at Bosley and other places. I didn't know that. I'm sure many students can benefit from that, especially now we're getting closer to the end of the semester and people are running out. So, and then maybe we can even help brainstorm ways to communicate that as well.
Awesome.
Next on stack is the ASG President.
So from my awareness, I know that Charles oversees the approved food vendor list, and a lot of constituents have expressed the difficulty of navigating and managing the approved food vendor list. So I would love to be able to talk about if he's open to reorganizing that and taking suggestions to make that easier for senators and student orgs to navigate when selecting a food vendor.
Awesome, that'd be a great question.
I want to echo the president's message and say that that's something, I mean, me personally, I would be very much interested in also asking, as the president said, many people have been very confused about the current vendors that we can have on campus, especially surrounding cultural and events that usually require different types of food vendors that are not on the approved vendor list. Next on stack is Senator Osa.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the meal equivalency swipe thing isn't like applicable. It's not applicable to freshmen. And if I am mistaken about that, I would kind of like to continue on and talk about the training of the workers at with auxiliary dining services. It's kind of a mess, like having worked there myself and gone through the process. A lot of people are really uninformed about really the ins and outs of their own jobs, and it sort of reflects in the way that I feel like the dining services are carried out, because people can't really get deals if the employees don't really know how to apply them, and that's happened to me more than once. And yeah.
Thank you. The next on stack is Senator Mia.
My answer or comment is to answer Senator Tatum's. So me and Senator Takayla are working on an initiative with Charles Ramos to change and bring more options to the SLP specifically, and we're putting out a Google form which also asks about certain things like dietary restrictions, so I'm just putting that on your radar for the future to come. But something I wanted to add to the question list was during our meeting, we talked about possibly bringing a food truck to the vistas for a food option, because I know they said that we would and that it would be a possible resolution since we have no food up there, but there's some sort of update on that since our last meeting.
Yeah, definitely.
Next on stack is the PR chair.
Okay, so I kind of have two questions that I'm interested in, and one of them is the food waste and how, if they have any updates on the food waste programs that they've been working with. I know they have one that's the composting, because personally I work at the churro store and I smell it, and it's really bad. But I'm just curious how that update is. And then also in regards to food options and allergies, I'm kind of curious on how the auxiliary workers are trained in terms of peanut allergies and how the cleanliness standards are. For example, I think it's Blue Spoon, they have 2 blenders, one for peanut, one for not. So I'm just curious on how that works.
Next on stack is Senator Josh.
Yeah, I wanted to reiterate Kaylee's point. I heard that the machine in the back of the SLP doesn't even work for the compost. So I think that needs to happen, because we're marketing to everyone not to scrape our food, but we're just causing more work for other people, and you're just blatantly lying to the population of the school that you're helping when you're not helping. So I think that needs to be checked in on.
Senator Sean.
Hi, I just wanted to respond to that. I don't know, well, not to address you personally, but if anyone knew if that was a recent concern, I would like to hear that. But I will say I think that was a concern last semester when I think it was the city of San Diego, they had a gray water composter, and that was not working out with the city of San Diego because it was messing up the waste systems. So they had to move to a different composter, and during that time they weren't using compost, but now they have a garden composter that converts it to fertilizer. That, to my knowledge, at least they say that they're using. But if you have any other concerns or you've heard stuff about that, I'd like to hear it. I, for one, have seen people the workers there throwing stuff in the trash. I don't know if that's a training issue, so maybe we could add that to the questions about that, because that's kind of a concern. And then I also wanted to build off of what everyone was saying about allergies and stuff. Having spoken with Charles Ramos last semester about all that, he does have good answers on a lot of those things, because it is his job. So I would ask everyone to find as many kind of like specific points that we can point to, so he doesn't just like avoid the question or just like point to stuff he's already I mean, if it answers the question, that's fine, but please do your best to represent your constituents and find out what the specific problems are, so you're ready with that. And then if, for his presentation, if he could maybe provide an overview of like all the different avenues of accommodation of food allergies and everything, because I know he does a lot of that stuff, and I think that would be fair to him and good for us to see and save some questions on the day of. Thank you.
Thank you. The PR chair was next.
For the composting system that they're using, to my knowledge, it is currently working. I think at one point that it was not working, but it is currently working, because I do get to see the workers putting it in the machine. It's located outside, like behind the SLP, kind of near the dumpsters and where the food truck usually sits when it's not in operation. But that's to my knowledge. I would like to see, or like to hear from Charles and Carol, like on how that is currently working though, and if they have any updates.
Senator Devin.
Kind of continuing the conversation about sustainability, I think one of the things when John Alejandro came to speak, he said one of the few things that's not factored into USD's like sustainability report is our like food production and like consumption. And I was wondering if he could provide a list of like not just like the like where they get food for turmeric, but more where they get food for the SLP in terms of like if we have like a large contract with like a food provider, or if we're like sourcing from like different grocery stores or whatever, and so in that way we could kind of get a grasp on like how much emissions are associated with the food that we're using.
Okay, awesome. If there's no further questions, and again, you can always email me with more at a later time if you come up with them. Our next speakers will be on April 20th, the week after, and it will be Katie Groig and Marie Davis, the Vice President for Financial and Chief Financial Author, and then the Budget Director. And this presentation will be on financial transparency, because there is a tuition increase happening, and they have been requested by multiple senators and constituents to come to Senate. So they have also requested specific questions. So just a specific, you can be, what would you like to hear from them?
Point of order, the allotted time has expired.
The sustainability coordinator.
I move to extend the allotted time by 10 minutes.
There's a motion on the floor, have been seconded to extend the allotted time for this agenda item by 10 minutes. We will now move to a vote. All those in favor, please raise your placards. All those opposed? And any abstentions? Motion passes 10 more minutes. The sustainability coordinator.
Hi, yeah. I was just wondering if, this is kind of just posed to everyone, if it would be possible maybe to do like a tabling event before they come to Senate, because I think financial transparency and tuition, that's like one of the biggest complaints about life at USD and everything. I think that's something that's really important to all the students on campus. So maybe if we could get some direct input and maybe make a survey, do a tabling event, I think that would be really great. Maybe if people are interested in that, we can kind of reach out after today's Senate and figure that out.
Senator Clay.
I would be interested in hearing them speak on students who demonstrate exceptional financial need. I feel like I myself fit into that category, and I would like to know more about how they decide how much to give you in actual need-based aid versus how much they recommend in loans. From my personal experience, they recommend you take out a lot in loans in your financial aid package, and I'm just wondering if there's any better ways to accommodate students who do have financial need or are financially independent from their parents.
The ASG president.
I also wanted to make you all aware that Dr. Harris is also going to be here on this day, so I would love if you all could also brainstorm a list of questions for Dr. Harris as well.
A specific question that I would like for us to ask, maybe this never mind, this is not specific, this is kind of general. But if they could kind of break down what this addition to tuition is going towards, that would be very beneficial. And yeah, I guess, yeah, I think that would be really, really good, as well as to what specifically in tuition, like specifically, or that tuition percentage it's going towards, because it's very, very general. I know that classes cost a certain amount, but there's definitely more implications to that. Thank you.
Senator Mia.
My question too is kind of related to Senator Valeria's and how the large number of freshmen coming in. As we know, we had a really big freshman class this year, and we'll also have a very large class next year. How that's affecting our tuition, and since we have like so many new students coming in, why our tuition is also being raised so much? Yeah, thanks.
Personally, I also would like to advocate for something that the finance chair has mentioned to me. In this meeting, I want to discuss about the way in which the new wellness building is being paid for, especially after the finance chair met with both of these presenters or potential presenters, and found out that there will be $125 per semester per student for each semester for the new wellness building, and so I definitely would like to be advocating about costs and are students the one covering that, and if so, because I remember having a conversation with President Harris at the beginning of the school year with the rest of the exec about discussing about whether faculty and staff can use the wellness building, and we had agreed yes, but we want to also ensure then that students are not the only ones paying for it, and then faculty and staff are using it, but also not paying for it, I guess. So that's one of my questions. Next on stack is Senator Valeria.
Sorry, now I didn't need to be recognized because of this point of information. I had a proxy 2 Senates ago who informed me that I think, do we need a membership now for the wellness center, or how? I was absent for that meeting, so if somebody could clarify that to me, is it going to be part of their tuition and we all get access to it, or is this now a membership thing, or I kind of missed that?
So there's to my knowledge, no membership. It would just be a USD, scanning into it as a student member. You have access to the building. There's no additional membership fee to it, so to use the building. But we are going to be paying for it in fees, though. There's going to be an additional fee that kind of seems like, it's not like a buy-in membership, but it's just tacked on to tuition fees. But the main thing that I want to point out about that as well is that it is a fee that isn't included in the tuition increase. It's an additional fee besides tuition. So on any student's receipt, I don't want to say their thing, it says, tuition is this much and this much, which in itself is increasing, but as well there's certain fees. So the student activity fee, which as you all know pays for the student government. There's certain the SLP fee in there, which is helping pay for the SLP building, and then they'll be tacking on an additional fee in that category of fees. Senator Malia.
I don't know if this is a question that Andres can answer right now, or if it's in relation to the presenters, but is this $125 fee continuous, or is it just while the building's being built?
So to my current knowledge, there is, what I understand is that this will be for the students after the building is built, and so then currently we won't be tacked on that fee. However, it will be a continuous fee, pretty much paying for the building until it is fully paid for, kind of thing. But I mean, current students who, for example, current seniors will probably not have that fee, but some freshmen and sophomores will when it comes to the building being constructed. Senator Devon?
How much of a delta is, do you know how much of a delta there is between like what they've raised in financing for the building and what students are expected to pay? Because if that's like $125 per semester, it's $250 a year, it's like roughly 6,000 undergrads, so that's like $1.5 million a year, and I was just curious how many years they expect to do that to pay off the delta between the cost of the building and what they've already paid for.
Yeah, I think that's a valid question to ask for VP Katie Roy and Mary Davis, who are in charge of the budget. Senator Chloe?
I wanted to speak to the president's point of potential speaking points for President Harris. I would be interested to know what work, if any, he does with existing multicultural orgs or affinity groups, because I've heard a lot of feedback from constituents that they don't feel heard or that they feel overlooked by the administration. So I would like to know his feedback on that and if there's anything he's working on with existing multicultural orgs on campus.
Next on stack is the proxy for Senator, the student org committee chair.
I just wanted to go back to the conversation on the wellness building. I wanted to ask if this is something that's going to be available for alumni to use as well, because I'm just wondering if for students who are going to graduate after next year and are going to be, like the additional costs of the building are going to be added into their tuition, is this something that they're also going to be able to use once they're not students here anymore, and if they're also going to have to pay an additional fee to be able to use the space?
Yeah, that's a valid question, and I think that's something that we should bring up to when Kitty Roy comes to Senate. Senator Angelica.
I also have a really quick question. It's not about the building, but it's more about housing, especially with like this incoming freshman class. I know I think it's supposed to be the biggest, and like I'm a freshman right now. Our class was also too big to house everyone on like in the valleys, so they had to house people in San Juan and I think a couple in Pack Ridge actually. So I was just wondering, with the tuition increases, how they were going to plan on housing all the freshmen and all the upperclassmen, and how that would affect, like if they're going to be paying for more students to go to Pack Ridge as freshmen, how that's going to work with financial wise.
Thank you. Next on stack is Senator Tatum.
Yeah, this is more for President Harris, but I'm just also like interested in knowing how he like decided on the wellness center versus like improving housing such as air conditioning and Maher. Anyway, and stuff like that. How we decided to build like a brand new wellness building first before like improving housing in certain aspects on campus. Thank you.
Point of order, the allotted time has expired.
The sustainability coordinator.
I move to extend the allotted time by 10 minutes.
There's a motion on the floor and been seconded to extend the allotted time by 10 minutes. We will now move to a vote. All those in favor, please raise your placards. All those opposed? And any abstentions? Motion passes. 10 more minutes. Senator Mia, you were on stack.
My question was already asked. Thank you.
Okay. The sustainability coordinator, do you have a question?
Oh, yeah, sorry. I wanted to speak to that point. Someone mentioned that the president would be coming. I just wanted to clarify, because I think you mentioned earlier in like your updates that he wasn't going to be coming to Senate this semester. So I was just like curious if President Harris will be there on that day, or is that?
Yes. So, in full transparency, the Senate lead team and I have worked throughout the fall semester as well as spring semester to open opportunities for President Harris to attend Senate, as well as the president of ASG has also reached out in terms of attending exec. And so we have either always heard that he's booked out and not ready to, or not able to come to Senate, and so, or any of the other meetings. And so And only recently the speaker pro tempore, Lily, she reached out to their office and asked for them to come during the semester, but we booked one like tentatively, and then further after that, they kind of canceled on us because he was traveling, and so his office didn't really provide any further dates that he'll be coming. So something that the president and I were discussing in exec is that pretty much it is a little bit disheartening to see that the president of the university did not engage with the university or with ASG this year, just as we are the official student representation on campus. And usually what does happen is that he at least attends one semester of Senate and even attends an exec meeting, and there's other opportunities that we engage with President Harris. This year has just been a little bit pulled back. And so the president and I drafted a letter that we sent to his office, and I want to say just kind of like 2 dates opened up. So yeah, so that's what happened. And so now just as of last night, we just scheduled President Harris to April 20th after the Senate lead team last night.
Are there any more questions for Katie Roig and Marie Davis? Awesome.
Senator Mir?
Sorry,
You're
if
good.
we have further questions like before April 20th, I know it was harder with Charles Ramos because it's right after break, but if we have other questions, would you like us to just email you?
Yes, 100%, please.
Thank you.
Next on stack is Senator Jonathan.
This is just more of a generalization, just like ways that we can like build more transparency between like administration and like students, especially when it comes to tuition, because like that, like when we talk to constituents, stuff is like the biggest issue, like what's happening with tuition, like why is it even increasing, like, and I don't think it's fair that students are asking questions on that's like one of the most important topics and something that like costs like a lot of money for us to be here. So just if we can figure out like ways to basically build transparency between like administrators and the students and like ways that we can help out with that.
Awesome.
Yeah, and so I got you and I got Malia, but I just want to quickly add to Senator Jonathan's point of also the transparency of something that, another question I was going to also ask, and just so all of you are informed, is that the fact of, through my work this year and through many of exec's work and all of your work this year, I mean, we've started to see that a lot of like the student kind of facing things on campus are either self-made by revenue. So yeah, like rec is revenue-based, auxiliary is revenue-based. The student affairs department is a relatively small budget compared to the other departments, and so asking about then where does all the money go that if it isn't affecting directly things that students tap into on a daily basis. And you know, I think it's a safe assumption to guess some other places, like clearly, like, you know, maintaining this beautiful campus, paying salaries, but you know, why is there so much an emphasis of money in that direction, not so much directed towards students? Next on stack was Senator Malia.
My question is just kind of based off of what Andres and Jonathan had just said, but I'd like to know just more of like a breakdown of where tuition money is going to and how much is actually being used every year and how much is essentially just like profit for the university. And then also, I know we're like super low with ASGVC money, and so I was wondering if they had any plan or would be open to funding some of the things that we're funding, like some of the commons and like discretionary funds.
Senator Devon.
I just wanted to kind of the previous two speakers we discussed and getting the financial statements for auxiliary. This might, I don't know which it would, whether it would pertain to auxiliary or the finance department, so that it kind of applies to here as well. And then also about like what we've been discussing with where like student tuition is going. My guess is that like a lot of it's probably going to the endowment, so I'm wondering if they could like kind of discuss what the university endowment looks like and what their plans are for that going forward.
building off that, I don't know if it would be possible to get like specific like financial statements for just like all of the financials on like kind of everything, the entire university budget. I don't know if they're going to bring that anyways, or if that's something that is available to students or the public, but kind of like that and like a breakdown of that or a quick summary or something, and then like also access to the full documents if available would be awesome.
Okay, awesome. If that is it for Katie Broad and Marie Davis, again, email me questions if you come with them in the future, as well as with President Harris. Again, that's a new addition, so we're excited. Next is Matthew Yepes and Admiral Silas Massey are coming on April 27th. We're working on confirming whether Roger Pace is coming with them or not, but at least 2 representatives will be there from that department talking about compass points and classroom wellness, which have both been points that have come up in Senate before. So.
Point of personal privilege.
Come on. Senator Chloe?
Personally, for a year, I've been trying to work on getting a compass point idea approved. I've just had to put it on the back burner because I'm working on like 4 different things at the same time. So I would like to ask them more about the process of how they decide what to dedicate compass points to and what the process would be to approve or add new additions.
Yeah, me personally, I think it would be great if Senate could possibly be considered a compass point in certain ways to also help with like our student engagement. So I think that's something that we could talk to them about.
Yeah, I know that the academics committee chair has been thinking about that, and so I think that would be also a valid point to bring up.
Again, it's okay if you don't have anything right now. Just make sure you email me in the future so we can get the most out of their presentation. That's it. Any final thoughts?
Senator Jacob?
While we're brainstorming questions, I just have a quick clarifying question. What exactly does it mean by like classroom wellness? Does that mean like students in class or like choosing schedules, or what exactly? What are they going to talk about, I guess?
So it's all of the above. It's kind of what direction we want to guide them in. For example, in Senate, I know it's been brought up previously of adding pages to the syllabus about classroom wellness for students and things like that. So anything you would like them to elaborate on.
Senator, the sustainability coordinator.
I'm not really sure if this is the proper speaker for this, because it seems like they're more oriented towards career development, but I know there have been like some questions that have come up about like, I guess transferring credits and like, maybe like how transferring credits works and complaints about that, and then like also retaking classes. I think if you pass a class, it's like impossible to retake it, even if you've got like a really low grade in it or something that might damage you in like later academic endeavors, like trying to get into further education or something like that.
Point of order, the allotted time has expired.
Okay, I think we'll move on to our next agenda item. So next on the agenda is the amended item presented by Senator Jacob to discuss a potential resolution to restrict speakers that come to campus engaging in hate speech.
Hi everyone, I want to thank you for having me. So just to clarify, this resolution was co-authored by me and the IDEA committee chair, Anna, who unfortunately is ill. So I'll kind of be presenting our resolution today. And just just to clarify, this is just a conversation to just kind of present what this resolution is going to be about. We'd love to receive feedback, any discussion, all of that would be very helpful, and I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about it. So while it's being pulled up. And if you'd like to follow along, I linked the resolution in the Idea Committee Chair's speaker notes. So if there's any places that you would like to touch on, or if you need clarification from me, we can definitely do that. All right, and so to begin with, this is a resolution to support queer and trans students and deny Matt Walsh and any possible campus speaker that engages in hate speech. As we all know, last Senate we were presented with Matt Walsh, and we were all able to contribute in ways of how Matt Walsh and his platform goes against our values at USD. So with that in mind, I'm not going to read every single part of the resolution, but I like to read the first part where it says, whereas the Associate Student Government Senate of the University of San Diego has presented to them Matt Walsh for consideration as a potential on-campus speaker to be hosted by the U.S. College Republicans, the Senate was required to hear a presentation requesting funding from such group. The Senate then considered the reason as to why the student activity fee should not be used to fund such an event. And just to clarify that part, a lot of constituents approached me after and talked about how they don't feel comfortable paying part of their student activity fee to a platform like this. And so just to clarify what exactly with the student activity fee, part of this mission is to foster an opportunity to grow and feel welcome outside the classroom environment. And as we all discussed, and from our questions to the USC Republicans, it's clear that his anti-trans ideals and anti-queer ideals perpetuated violence towards the LGBTQIA+ community and ultimately did not allow them to feel welcomed. So after that, just kind of establishing what this resolution is based on, we kind of go into statistics about violence and that occurs to the transgender community, specifically since this platform was against that. And then we also quoted some parts that some of the senators have brought up during Senate, including parts of the Constitution that go against, his platform goes against, as well as the ASG mission statement. And then we also, again, go into how historically we fund a greater part about LGBTQ+ organizations, some events that we funded including like the Trans Day Remembrance and Trans Day Visibility. And at the very end, we kind of explain how we denied the funding request of $21,000 due to lack of alignment with ASG mission statement and Article 3 of ASG Constitution. So those are kind of all the whereases, explain the resolution. And then our first be it resolved is that the ASG declares that Matt Walsh and other speakers similar to him and beliefs and platforms shall be denied and not welcome as a potential campus speaker by the University of San Diego at large. Furthermore, the Senate stands in belief that his presence would foster an unsafe environment on campus for those identified within the LGBTQ+ community. That's kind of, again, what the majority of our conversation was, and we want to put it into law that this shouldn't be allowed in the future, with the potential of other organizations bringing speakers that could be just as harmful. Again, we go into further resolve of what ASG stands for and how we don't agree with transphobic, homophobic, or any form of oppression to marginalized communities. And I also wanted to talk about, it's kind of split up, but basically the be further resolved if another speaker were to come. This part where we say is that the ASG Senate shall be empowered to take any measures necessary to ensure enhanced support for the queer and trans union and other LGBTQ+ organizations on campus, dedicating to uplifting marginalized spaces and our queer community on campus. That's just kind of going back to our conversation of how damage was done when it came to the queer and trans union presentation. I think this is a great step forward in showing that in law, we're putting in our advocation and our efforts to support our LGBTQ+ community on campus and our organizations, as well as to prove to them that we're looking out for them in their best interest and we stand for them as well. And yes, so then these are just the final be it resolved. Kind of talking about who we're going to deliver it to. Most of these have to do with community engagement, inclusion and diversity, as well as deans and students, and of course the president and other people that are important for delivering this piece of legislation. So yeah, I'll give you a minute if you look for it. If there's any questions I'd love to answer, any feedback, anything like that. Greatly appreciated.
Point of information, where is the link?
Oh, it is under the speaker notes in the slides.
Okay, so just clarifying before I call on all of you to speak. So the Idea Committee Chair and Senator Jacob have been working on this resolution. This is like the big work that we all do here in Senate. So I just want to first off just kind of like just do a round of applause for the work of getting to this point. This is what it is to kind of like work and do research and conduct things. But I also just want to emphasize that this is still something that is unfinished. And right now is the time to add suggestions. You all as senators add and discuss this. This will be taken back to the IDEA committee for further refurbishment, fine tuning, working with pertinent members on campus to make sure that certain language is correct, and then will be further brought to Senate. And this is and as we saw, other campus universities, these are the resolutions that are published that as a student government, this is the kind of policy we would like to see implemented on campus, and we stand by these kind of affirmations. So like Senator Jacobs said, this is sort of like our bread and butter, but also our way of kind of this is what ASG Senate does. We pass resolutions to kind of ensure that certain things we want done on campus happen, kind of thing. So just want to offer that clarification. And so on stack, I had the ASG president was first. Oh no, you did your, okay.
Point of information, are we welcome to add Google comment, suggestions onto the doc directly?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you don't have access to that, let me know and I can fix that as well.
Next on stack is Senator Devon.
First off, I want to say I did a great job. I think that's excellent. One suggestion I had is maybe have a clause defining hate speech. You kind of address it at a macro level, and transphobia, various things like that. But if you get it would make it even more airtight if you get really specific in terms of what you think qualifies as hate speech, and making sure that we don't condone that.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Thank you so much.
Next on stack is this sustainability coordinator.
That was my main point of people. First of all, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate your work on that, and I think it's really important. But yeah, that was my main point of feedback was there's a lot of power in specifics. The more specific you are, the better. And I think it's most fair if we're kind of stopping some speakers from coming on campus that we have specific reasons as to what they've said or why. And then the other point I have to make is that at the approval, at the ASGBC request in that discussion, we did kind of mention that our biggest gripe with it was not that Matt Walsh was coming to our campus, but that that we were using the student activity fee for that, and that we didn't condone that, and we didn't want to use that. And I did hear mention from some senators during that discussion that it's not that we're kind of stopping him from coming to campus, and that's not the problem, and that we support, I guess, free speech, as the college Republicans put that, and that was kind of their main argument was that it was for free speech, and kind of this resolution would be going further than that. I'm not saying that that's necessarily wrong, but I think it's really important to keep that in mind. This is kind of a lot stronger, and we would have to kind of be able to justify that to constituents.
Yeah, I agree, and I think the reason why this is taking a step further is because of the inevitability that he may come, and that the threat he has, especially to safety. So if you think there's anywhere else that we can further affirm to constituents as to why this is a threat and not something that can be thrown under the rug, for example, talked about how it goes against our constitution, the mission statement of him being here rather than funding, please let me know, because I'd love to add that as well. And then also to clarify with specifics to to things that need to be further fleshed out in terms of not being too broad. Again, and literally anything that you guys find reading it needs to be fixed, please feel free to do that, because like I said, throughout the process of Anna and I creating this, there's literally any word that we stumbled across has been oh, this is too broad, or this needs more specificity. So whatever you think, please put it down as well.
Next on stack is Senator Chloe.
Thank you again to you and Anna for working on this. This is something I'm really passionate about, so excuse me if I go on a soapbox for a second, but I have some feedback that I'd like to see implemented. But first, to all the senators, since you're just seeing this for the first time, I just saw it for the first time this morning, I strongly encourage you all to take a closer look at it during your office hours, So that way you can come to idea committee with your specific feedback and we can make sure that it's implemented before we vote on it. In terms of the resolution itself, in the first be it resolved paragraph, we have a phrase that states other speakers similar to him in beliefs and platforms. And I think we, as said by previous senators, we really need to clarify this because this could be interpreted as Republican or conservative speakers, and we need to make it clear that it's regardless of political ideology. We just don't condone hate speech and bigotry, but we do support healthy disagreement, educated conversations, etc. I also think something that we should add, I know a lot of the focus of this resolution was the harm that he's done to queer and trans students, and I think he's also done harm to other communities that we could cite as evidence. There's a plethora of evidence online, but we can cite some racist, sexist, and xenophobic things. So there's other marginalized communities that could be harmed that could kind of further support our reasoning for why we don't condone his behavior. And lastly, something I just wanted to have on our radar, I talked to some of my political science professors about this, and they have informed me that there is a common, I guess I would say, trope or theme of conservative or Republican organization making asks like this at liberal college campuses and then using that as a platform to demonstrate that they are being silenced or marginalized. And his concern was that even if we do take the stance of not condoning him as a speaker, Matt Walsh could then use it as a publicity stunt and an opportunity to say, I'm a champion of free speech, I'm coming here even though they're trying to silence me. So I want to look into if there's anything we can do to prevent that from happening or how a speaker gets approved.
Yeah, I agree. And I remember during the Senate meeting, they asked if we had any suggestions. So maybe that could be something that we could open up our resources to, being like, if you need help brainstorming someone that doesn't have all of these problematic and violent platforms background, something that we could help aid with, especially with our committee too.
Next on stack is Senator Valeria.
My question has been answered, thank you.
Next on stack is the parliamentarian.
So echoing what everyone else said, thank you for bringing the resolution. I know we're all very excited for it. As the guy who's in charge of making sure we don't overstep our boundaries and call points of order, you have a line saying the ASG Senate shall be empowered to take any measures necessary. Might possibly just want to reword that in a way that doesn't make it sound like we are going to be overstepping our authority or our powers. I put a comment off to the side, any powers within our ability or something along those lines, just to make it seem like we still are respecting the boundaries we have set by our bylaws and constitution, so it doesn't seem like an over-authoritarian state.
Yeah, no, I agree. Thank you.
Next on stack. Next on stack is Senator Osa.
Yeah, I'd like to echo what Senator Holm was saying, just like making sure to highlight a lot of, from what I've seen, the conservative mindset, especially when emphasis sort of on a victimhood. We all saw like around the end of the last meeting, just the way in which that person chose to conduct themselves by like saying that his free speech was being silenced and like all of that. So I'd like to say in that one section, be it resolved, the ASG Senate declares that Matt Walsh and other speakers like him similar to him in beliefs. Maybe honestly just cutting the beliefs part out, because we wouldn't want anyone to feel like no matter what their beliefs are, that they don't have the right to like have those things expressed and shown, just the way that he goes about doing it and the effects that it has. Yeah.
Thank you.
Next is Senator Josh.
Cede my time.
Next on stack is Senator Devin.
Yeah, kind of piggybacking off what Osa said, I think like even just maybe avoiding like altogether like similarity or using that word and kind of just focusing on like not allowing speakers that like defining hate speech and then saying we're not going to allow speakers that propagate hate speech or whatever, instead of like, because I feel like that is like a risk that you run if you're like saying similar to beliefs and platforms, could come back and say, oh, like you're marginalizing our ability to have like free speech. And then something else is, I don't know when this would be voted on, but if it's after when President Harris comes to Senate, it might be interesting to get his perspective on like what happened and what he has to say about the situation.
to extend the allotted time by 5 minutes.
There's a motion on the floor, seconded to extend the allotted time for this agenda item by 5 minutes. We will now move to a vote. All those in favor, please raise your placards. All those opposed? And any abstentions? Motion passes. 5 more minutes. Take it a while. Taking one. Next on stack is Senator Isabella.
Going back on the point that we've been talking about, maybe we could say like the ASG Senate declares that Matt Walsh and other speakers who violate the principles of the ASG Constitution, so that way like we're citing evidence in a way rather than just like beliefs, because like everyone said that could be controversial, but like we're being biased politically, which we cannot represent that.
Yeah, no, I agree. So if anyone has any like specific examples of where we can fix it, because part of the issue is that we wanted to obviously, I mean, I'm sure you get this, but just to clarify, we wanted to not allow Matt Walsh to come on campus, but also there's a multitude of other speakers that have the potential of having the same platform that can come on campus. So if people have any suggestions of how we can tighten up that verbiage so that it's general enough, not general enough, but specific enough to allow that other people can come, that'd be greatly appreciated as well.
Just also clarifying as well, something I want to say just as speaker, you all don't have to agree with the resolution. The whole part of a resolution is it's like a bill and it's debated and divided. So that it's also really good that we are kind of discussing this, but the final time of voting, it is all of yours decision to decide to adopt this, and it would just be like simple majority vote. But I do like to see the collaborative effort though, and it's really encouraging. Next on stack is Senator Sean, or the Sustainability Coordinator.
Yeah, thank you. So I do have some suggestions because you're asking for some specific stuff. So for on the, I guess the hate point or the similar speakers point, I think it would be really powerful or really helpful if you put speakers that have shown in the past or something, something like that, have shown in there or have just like shown evidence of something through prior speech or actions or something, and that way we can, that's like a lot more specific, and then we can have kind of proof of that, and that's a lot more fair, I think. And then another thought on that, I don't know if this would be very plausible, but, and I don't know who we're sending this to and like how effective the resolution will be in the end, but if we could have like maybe delegate like the decision of like denying speakers from campus, like maybe set up like a special committee from ASG or from like faculty senate or joint faculty senate or with the president's office or something like that, so that we have like someone who kind of would be able to decide on that and maybe also hear appeals on that if it's abused. I don't know. But again, I don't know how like concrete implementations of resolutions are for filling things on that. So.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. The Sustainability Coordinator made a very interesting point, and I think that's one would be kind of good to further investigate of how we can include student voices in the decision making of campus speakers. Next on the step. Yes. Yeah.
So a lot of you have been talking about like the process to approve speakers. I would encourage you, this is also aspect of resolutions where you write all this and it's great, but it's important to do the research in terms of how that process is and how it's executed, so that when you are bringing up ideas like a panel or a group of people, you're making sure that you're being thoughtful about those ideas by knowing what the process is currently. Just so also a lot of what the approval process is through our office. So happy to connect, but just make sure those are the types of things to kind of know about as you're writing resolutions. Because at times you can write it and give suggestions, but if it doesn't make sense to what's currently in practice, it's challenging to change.
Point of order, just as a reminder, point of information is to do a question, point of clarification is to provide information.
The Student Life Committee Chair.
Just building off
looks like to get a speaker, but I think it'd be useful to make like guidelines, kind of how ASGBC and Finance Committee and stuff, we have guidelines that like guide our decision making and make sure that they're fair and uniform and consistent. And that way they're not like up to interpretation, like just really clear guidelines that make sure too that like in years to come, like if people's opinions or like the people serving on the panel change, they're still all following the guidelines, and that helps like remind them what they're doing and like keeps kind of the purpose of this resolution alive even after like the people who have volunteered or are assigned to serve on the panel, like it will like bypass what their personal opinions are, but like give them like a framework to kind of use, if that makes sense.
Point of order, the allotted time has expired.
Just to clarify, we do have Senator Osa and Senator Devon still on stack, but it is up to you all to extend the time or not.
My question was already answered.
Point of order, Senator Sauer, hands by chair.
The Senator Devon.
I move to extend the allotted time by 3 minutes.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor and been seconded to extend the allotted time by 3 minutes. We will now move to a vote. All those in favor, please raise your placards. All those opposed, and any abstentions? Motion passes 3 more minutes. Next on stack is Senator Devon.
I think like 2 other things I want to bring up is like kind of what Senator Sean said, is making sure that this is like enforceable. So like having some sort of like, and that's why I think like defining hate speech is really important, because like from a legal perspective, I know how a lot of like contracts are set up, like every single word is like defined below so that you have like a context and like something that's airtight. So I think like if we define hate speech and like said that the Senate will not allow Matt Walsh or any like speakers that propagate hate speech, and then having like a committee that can like evaluate whether a given speaker coming to this like abides by that ruling, I think that would kind of make this like really effective. So building on what we've already like done.
Yeah, I strongly agree. Thank you.
Next on the stack is the Student Life Committee Chair.
Just kind of adding on to the idea of making like guidelines to help direct the panel or whatever like group of people we think would be appropriate. Though I think it'd be beneficial to like share those with student organizations ahead of time, like once they establish their club, so that they understand like when they are requesting a speaker, what the preset guidelines are, so it's fair, and like that could also just like nip it in the bud and have like people like make like they'll understand ahead of time that they shouldn't be requesting that speaker in the first place because it's going against their guidelines. So yeah, just sharing it with them as well I think would be important.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, I don't know if there are any more questions, but thank you guys all for the suggestions. If you have anything else, feel free to text or email me. I can put my information on the slide, as well as Anna and anyone else in my committee. But I really appreciate your time. And
Senator Jacob, there was one more question.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. Senator Osa, you have the last question.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to just go back to the last meeting again about how we all just kind of, when we had that big doc, provided all our little bits of evidence, just maybe creating a requirement that there needs to be a precedent of incendiary language use to ban a speaker, and then showing up with that evidence and making it clear to student organizations that if like you have a if you have a speaker that's been saying really fucked up shit on Twitter, don't bring them to campus.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. Okay. I don't think there's any more, right? And no one else on staff?
Currently, no.
Okay.
We have, yeah, we're about to run out of time, but.
Awesome. Thank you.
Jacob, could you switch it? Yeah. Thank you. At this time, we will move on to final business and hearing of the public. At this time, any senator may take from the table any motion previously laid on the table in the meeting the week before, present urgent business. Any member of the public may voice any concerns to the assembly on non-agenda items. Senator Isabella.
I move to adjourn.
There's a motion on the floor, I've been seconded to adjourn today's meeting. We will now move to a vote. All those in favor, please raise your placards. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Senate is adjourned.